Okay, hello and welcome to another edition of Pinoyathletics Speed Talk Saturday on the 17th of the 10th, 2020. My name is Enzo Williams. I'm coming to you from Sydney, Australia. I'll just begin the presentation. Okay, so okay, I can see we already have 10 viewers in place. I'll just do a quick shout out. Hello to Zushi Castro, Bong Flores, and 11 other viewers we have online at the moment. One door is open. Okay, so again, welcome to Pinoyathletics Saturday Speed Talk. Okay, so updates for our site. We've got nearly 22,000 readers to the website today. We've been consistently getting over 1,000, so 1,000 to 1,500. Last month we had 38,415 readers, which was our new record of after 8 years of operation. It's good considering we mainly had to apply strategies in a non-competition month. The record number of views for that month, so previously it was like 28,700, so we went past that by about 10,000 new viewers. This month so far we've had 18,798 views. The goal for the month is 29 to 32,000 visits, so 40 days left. Part of my work as ATFS Vice President, I've actually paid some good money to acquire rare athletic Philippine results from the 1930s to the 1970s. I'm also in the process of finishing off my Level 3 Athletics Australia Sprints and Hurdles coaching with 2 more class sessions in the next 2 weeks, which finalizes my completion of the accreditation. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to bring up, and we did as part of our revamp on our site, we posted about this training in the rain. So this is a photo of an athlete that I'm training in Calapan City, Pia native of Surigao, 22-year-old former Score 400-meter finalist who currently works with Fruitus Company. So if she's out there training in the rain, on an all-weather track, if you have an all-weather track that you can use, what is your excuse? She is making a comeback to sport. At first, she had all the typical Filipino mentalities or phobias of training in the rain. The fact is, that you're going to get sick if you train in the rain and that sort of stuff. I mean, in Manila, yeah, because there's chemicals in the water and that sort of thing. But in the province, the air is pretty clean, so I can't see how that could be a major issue. I mean, just bring a towel, change your clothes, another clean pair of socks, obviously, and just make sure that you sort of wash up afterwards. And I'm actually more concerned because she actually needs to get a pair of spikes. That's more of a concern about running on this wet track. Is you need to get a pair of spikes so you don't slip over here, or not a pair of flats. So that's more of the concern, is that you might slip over, rather than that you're going to get sick from rain, which I've only ever encountered in the Philippines. Other countries I've been to with athletes training, like they've never had the excuse, oh, it's raining, I'm not going to train today, sort of thing. It's only something I've encountered in the Philippines. In other countries, it's pretty much unheard of. It's sort of, I don't know how it's ingrained in mentality. So through persistent coaching on my part and reading the article I've provided, so Pinoyathletics.info, I can't train, it's raining. you know, she was able to overcome that mindset. So the first thing with training athletes is developing that strong mindset, because effectively, you know, if an athlete's going to be distracted from rain during training, then in competition they're going to be they may end up really inconsistent, you know, because they're not used to training in that these sort of conditions. If it pisses down rain in a competition, you really can't do much. You're not exactly going to go home and, you know, like just, you know, skip the meet. Well, you could. It would depend on how important the meet is. But obviously, you know, it's an all-weather track, so, you know, like all kinds of weather you need to train, unless there's a typhoon or something blowing over trees, which is a entirely different story. But then you can just arrange alternative workouts indoors, which can be used instead. So I'm just going to quickly read some key points from the article, but it's down the bottom, so you know you can feel free to just grab a coffee or something and have a good read of it. So yeah, just like what I've noticed in the Facebook room is I'm not sure if people don't have balance or something to be able to log into the account and they're just using free Facebook or something. But you know, when you you know, like when I post articles and stuff, it would be a good idea to sort of read the article or at least skim read it rather than just reading the headline. There's, you know, the headline doesn't really, you know, it tells you what the article's about, but it doesn't actually, you know, go into the points of the article. It just tells you like what the article's about, but it doesn't, you know, give you the meat of what's actually in the article. So I'm just looking at the article now. So emergency bag for packing an emergency bag for training in the rain. Change of clothes, especially extra socks. Heck, pack 5 pairs if you want, the more the better. Dry shoes also, sandals, towels, and soap, shoes with the right amount of grip, an umbrella, and your game face. So yeah, with rain, just make sure that you've got shoes that you're not going to slip over in, and have you know, shoes that like spikes on this track, obviously, or shoes with grip if it's another surface. You know, when I was coaching out at Zamboanga, you know, I had, you know, like I had a group of 18 sprinters, and you know, we trained even if it rained lightly. We trained. If it rained heavily, then we went to the gym and we did drills, circuit, medicine balls, you know, plyos, like strides and that sort, and some jogging, that sort of stuff, like plyo boxes as well. We had an alternate workout planned indoors if, you know, it rained heavy, so that way the athletes were still getting a workout. It's like rather than just, you know, doing nothing. So it's better to have a contingency plan if it rains. All right, moving on to the next article. So this is a video, I think, of me running in the rain. I'm not sure how well this is going to play out on here. I think I might have to, oh, there we go. This is a video of me running up in north of Sydney about 5 hours in a place called Maxwell on a grass track when it's raining. I don't think that's going to play, so I just have to run it off YouTube. Just bear with me for a minute. I'm just going to have to load that up through YouTube instead. This is from 2008 when I was 24 years of age. I'm just going to have to share a different screen because it's obvious. So yeah, this is run on a grass track. It's a handicap 300-meter race where athletes start at different marks, very common in Australia. You can see it's pissing down with rain. So my coach is there in the brown, so he was also in this race. Let's see if I can move it along a bit. So yeah, it's what I'm getting at is it's like situations like this where you need to actually be used to training in the rain. You know, like because it could be pissing down this much during an actual race. So that's why if you're not used to it, it's going to basically affect you a lot more than if you're used to training in these conditions, which make it, you know, more of a bearable situation. Moving to the next. Okay, so we've got some birthday greetings now for some athletes. I'll just share the screen. Okay. So first birthday greeting to Luma Baluitan Gabido, former #1 Philippine sprinter in the 100 from 98 to 2003, #1 Filipino long jump from 2000 to 2004, PB of 11.3 hand timed, so 11.61 electronic, 2000 Olympian in the 100, Asian Championship silver long jump, Asian African silver in the long jump, Asian Championships in the bronze of long jump in 2003, 2003 SEA Games champion in the women's long jump, former joint national record holder in the women's long jump at 656 meters, Olympian in the long jump in 2004 at his second Olympic Games, and national coach. So Luma turns, I think it's 46 today, so we're just wishing happy birthday to Luma. And also happy birthday to the following athletes: 2005 SEA Games silver in the women's pole vault, and former record holder Deborah Sampson, who held the Philippine record for 11 years from 2008 to 2019 with the 411 meter mark before it was eventually broken by Natalie Uwai. And also a special shout out to a very good friend of Pinoyathletics, Keith Sharper, former coach of Eric Cray. Keith was currently, was coaching Eric at the time when Eric first contacted Pinoyathletics back in late 2012, early 2013, when Eric had the intention of signing up to compete for the Philippines. So Keith was looking after his training back then. Okay, now update on the Singapore Chartered Marathon, no longer an Olympic qualifying event. We reread an article which was stating that, from a few days ago, which was stating that Christian Halaska was due to enter the Singapore Standard Chartered Marathon with arrangements put in place. However, anonymous tip told us that the event was no longer pushing through, and the event was going to be done virtually due to restrictions coming in and out of Singapore. So to clarify this matter, we contacted the organisers of the Singapore Standard Chartered Marathon to see what they had to say. via Facebook, and the organisers sent me back this message when I queried. When I first queried about will the event continue, they're saying they hope so. Some of it might be virtual, some of it might be, you know, an actual race format, but they weren't sure at the stage. I asked my next question, is the event going to be like still an Olympic qualifier? If, you know, is it still going to be an Olympic qualifying race due to the uncertainty of the event actually being held? Like without a lot of it having to be a virtual event. They said, thank you for reaching out, Enzo. The Singapore Chartered Singapore Marathon 2020 will not be part of the qualifying events for the Tokyo 2021 Olympics. We wish you the best on your road to Tokyo. So I've published the article. You can actually read my corrections to the Middle Standard on Singapore Standard Chartered Marathon via Pinoyathletics. I've actually just going to quickly go to that article and just read off some of it. So that article was actually pushed out on the 16th. I'm just this is what was read out. Hey there, the Singapore Chartered Marathon will adopt an alternative race format to replace the traditional road race comprising of virtual and possible physical components that are being explored and will be dependent on gathering regulations. The race will allow runners to take part in the race safely with no road closures or major stakeholder disruptions, and virtually, and still look forward to the signature finisher experience, complete with a finisher photo for runners to celebrate their accomplishments. Planning for the race is still ongoing and more details will be shared soon. So yeah, we've got the full article listed here. We did interview Christine Halasgo prior, and we have talked in regards. So yeah, like there some other points from the article is where Christine trains in Book of Nom, there is no home track, so she's been training a lot in the roads and the road hills, according to sources. We've posted all our corrections and our comments in red on this article in red ink, so I will not go any further into it. If you would like to read more about the article, the link is down the bottom. Singapore Standard Chartered Marathon on pinoyathletics.info. Okay, I'll just quickly do some shout outs. I'm just having a look at the site. Okay, just okay. We have 7 people viewing in. We'll have more shout outs to Zijin Lee, Virginia Wanza, Bon Flores, Rich Padayo, and Zushi Castro. Okay. I'll move to the next slide as I have another Zoom thing to attend after this. So we've now published on our website, and this is in cooperation with our good friends, the Talking Chinoy, Stefan, who does a terrific and wonderful job of promoting and giving, you know, exposure and some publicity to Filipino athletes and athletics, in particular long distance runners, which is a specialty. He has a great YouTube channel called Talking Chinoy. I would encourage you to check it out, subscribe, because he does some great interviews, some great research into, like, he puts a lot of thought into what he does with his presentations, you know, and you know, illustrates and explains it in a very exciting manner. So yeah, this is basically our half marathon all-time list. This is rare material you'll not find anywhere else. I mean, there's nothing like this has been prepared on the internet. Even the other statisticians, no one's delved into the realms of the half marathon from the Philippines yet. And all the information is there on pinoyathletics.info at Half Marathon Philippines. I mean, if there's we welcome any amendments and any additions to this. You could email pinoyathletics@gmail.com if you have information which hasn't been included here, which we can definitely look into. This is a joint research project between myself, Andrew Perry, the ATFS, the Association of Track and Field Statisticians Vice President, with Stefan, our very own talking Chinoy. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. So yeah, we interviewed him the other day. Unfortunately, we were having some sound issues, so we weren't able to capture, what he had to say. But I did take notes on the interview. We asked him some very interesting questions, and I transcribed the interview, and it is now available. Pinoyathletics.info, Mervyn Guate. Now, we asked Mervyn very interesting questions about, was there the possibility that he might, with no obstacle course racing in the 2021 SEA Games, is there the chance he may take up athletics again in the future? What other events has he got coming up in OCR? How is the training different in OCR? We went through his career history from his early days in the Polarong Pabamsa as a grade 3 athlete right up until the days he had those amazing duels with the greatest middle distance runner in Southeast Asian Games history, Dong Van Thai of Vietnam. And those matches that he pushed Dong Van Thai to his absolute limits, and those enthralling 1500 meters, which won't be forgotten. To the day, basically, he ended up moving over to OCR and finally capturing that elusive gold medal after stacking his silverware cupboard with so many, medals. I think he won 5 silvers in athletics with SEA Games before finally winning that elusive gold in the 5K obstacle course racing at the 2019 SEA Games in Alabama. Mervyn has been added to the Legends of Track and Field, and you can read more about Legends of Track and Field on Pinoy Athletics. We have a whole section dedicated to these amazing male and female athletes from the last 100 years. Mervyn, of course, still holds the Philippine senior and junior record at 3:47.65 in the 1500 meters, and he's held that record for 11 years now. The unified 1500 meter record, which is both concurrently shared by him as a junior athlete with the senior record as attached to that. Okay, now our next feature, this is about another legend of Philippine track and field, the late great Inocencia Solis, obviously, who around 60 or so years ago made a huge impact on the history of women's sports in the Philippines when she became the first sprint women's champion of the Philippines at the 1958 Asian Games, winning both the 1 and the 200 meter dash. Prior to that, the Asian Games was the Far East Asian Games, which started in the 20s and 30s, and women were not included in the program of athletics. It wasn't until the Asian Games started in 1951 that women were allowed to compete in the athletics editions. And having been to the 1954 Asian Games, Inocencia Solis had been the bronze medalist at those editions at the age of 22. So, she came back at the age of 26 years of age in 1958, and she made history by becoming the first ever woman to win the 100-meter dash, which of course set off a legacy of women Asian Games and Asian champions, which included Mona Sulaiman, Melita Alenius, and Lydia De Vega. So she basically was the forerunner of all those athletes, or prototype, the one that started off that legacy of great Filipino 100-meter runners. And we wrote to MMK asking, she should be featured as the original Asian Games sprint queen. We provided them information, and then they said we'll definitely check this out, and surely, the check out her story. I firmly believe it's one worth telling. From the golden era of Philippine track and field, when they were actually winning several golds at the Asian Games and the sprints and in several events. They were coming back with many gold medals back then. At that time, in the 50s and 60s, and Solis, of course, she was part of the powerhouse Central Institute of Technology team, which dominated women's athletics in the 1950s and 60s, and that also included the probably the greatest of Philippine track women athletes, Josephine de la Viña, who made it, right up to 11th place in the final at the 1968 Olympic Games in Mexico in the women's discus, and her record has actually stood for 50 plus years. But all these women who came through the Central Institute of Technology were coached by the forgotten Fructosa Soriano, and I believe that, if any anthology was to be made of Mercidita Solis, and definitely her longtime coach Fructosa Soriano should also be strongly featured in this, as well as of course Mona Sulaiman and Evangelista Onofre, all the figures who surrounded the athletic period at that time. Of course, moving on to the next slide. Okay, that looks like it for today. I'll just give a shout out to everybody who joined. It's been a 30-minute session, so with 10 slides, I expected it to be about 30 minutes. I actually got to attend another Zoom conference with someone else in about an hour. But just a special shout out, and then I might take some feedback and look at comments, because I had to cut it a bit short. So shout out to Cecil Duazo. Who else have we got joining us today? Pia, Virginia Wanza, and Shanzio Libra. Okay, I'm just going to have a quick look at the Facebook account to see if there's any commentaries here. Or sometimes there's comments I overlook in the Facebook account, as it's sort of like, I've got several windows open at once. Okay, cool. Alright, I think, yeah, these are just impromptu. These things are just rather impromptu these days, because I sort of just do them more as roundups now. Yeah, so again, we're really updating our site. Check out our great materials, share, spread the word on pinoyathletics.info. Hopefully we'll have more guests and more updates coming. Usually we do Tuesdays, we do Track Talk Tuesday, then either Thursday, Friday or Saturday, depending on the schedule, depending what else is going on, as we do not like to really overlap, our Zoom session, our webinar sessions with other things that are going on at the time. So anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in, and bye. Hello and welcome to another episode of Pinoyathletics Track Talk Tuesday. I believe we're airing now. I'm just going to check the lines here. Yep, we're live. Okay. Cool. A few viewers tuning in. I'm just going to Okay, we'll just run the slides rather. Yeah, so welcome to Pinoyathletics Track Talk Tuesdays on the 27th of October 2020. So just some recent stats on how the website's going. So like, as we mentioned before, we had a record number of views last month of 38,416. We're sitting on 32,000 today with 4 days left. So that means like 1,603 on average per day is needed to overtake that, which is, it's not looking likely at this point, but I wouldn't say it's impossible. But yeah, it's looking like we may get close, but it might just be off. Okay, so the first bit of news is the National Open going to be pushing through or not? Initially in May, then due to the COVID, postponed to December 5 to 6. As of now, there has been no registration forms, no schedule, nothing, no updates at all. I mean, questions have been asked on the page, is this event going to push through? What's happening? What's going on? And there's been no clarifications at this point about what's happening with the meet. So the athletic community is kind of in limbo with what's actually going on here. So the question is it even going to happen, or is it actually been cancelled for 2020 like the other events such as the weekly relays? And also what's happening with the training camp? That's another big question mark at the moment regarding New Clark. There hasn't been any updates on that or any recent news on those things as well. So for all we know, it's just in limbo at the moment. So moving on to the other countries in Southeast Asia, this is what they're doing at the moment. So this is what's going on in the other Southeast Asian countries. I'm not sure if you can read this because it looks pretty tiny on my screen, but it probably, I'll just check on the Facebook page to see. Oh yeah, that looks like that's readable just on the actual video itself. So it's sorry, I've got a lot of tabbing to do here. Like about 15 windows open at once. Okay, so yeah, the Southeast Asian athletic meets. So this is what what's happened with the other countries for the second half of the year so far. So Thailand has had jumps performances the last few months, various road events. I'll just throw in, because I haven't actually covered this in the slides, Numkit, who's the SEA Games silver medalist in the marathon, he just ran 1:06, 54 or 56 second for the recent Thailand half marathon that was held in Sagaray, like just a week ago or so. Thailand will host its national championships from December 10 to 13. This isn't a national open. This is a closed national championships for Thai athletes only because of the COVID. They're not letting anyone in to enter the meet. But like from my contacts in Thailand, the Thailand Athletics has already put out its entry form several weeks ago, and the schedule's already been out for several weeks for the Thailand National Open, which is going to be held in the new stadium at Bangkok. Vietnam, they've had quite a few meets now. They had their Speedy Cup back in July. Recently, they've held their National Junior Championships. Ho Chi Minh City Championships were in Ho Chi Minh, obviously, and the National Junior Games were in Tainan. They had a marathon. They've had a couple of marathons, one on an island. One is, they had one recently in Hanoi, and I'll be breaking down performances at those meets later in this presentation. They're also planning to hold a national championships in December in Hanoi. So that's Thailand and Vietnam. Singapore, in August, had its invitational time trials after a lot of its season, meets, nearly all its meets were cancelled due to the COVID. They've had 2 invitational time trials in August. They're planning to hold 2 more. So these invitational trials are only for athletes that are invited. It's like a selection only meet. It's not an open meet. Malaysia held an invitational team trial for distance runners, and they're planning to hold more in December, depending on the COVID situation. Moving along, actually, let's have a quick scores it. We want. All right, so we have 6 viewers now. So shout out to Ruel, Barona, and Aaron Ting. I'm not able to view who else is viewing us at the moment, but I'll just move to the next screen. So yeah, bit of a landmine of information on this page. So as I explained, Vietnam has had its junior championships, its marathon, and the Ho Chi Minh City meet recently. The full results of these meets will all be posted on Pinoyathletics in due course. We already have updated the Southeast Asian rankings on the website. The Southeast Asian rankings 2020 on pinoyathletics.info. So these are some of the highlights of the Vietnam Open and Junior meets. I may have already covered this in our last week's show, but I'm going to just go over some of the information again. So, just a quick shout out to Delmar Sardang, who's also enjoying our show today. So back to the highlights of the Vietnam Open and Juniors. So the junior men, well, I've got it around the wrong way actually, but you know what I mean. Those, it's pretty obvious that that's around the wrong way if you follow sprints. So the junior women was 11:90 and the junior men was 10:63 at the Vietnam National Junior Championships. So the half marathon was won at the Hanoi Marathon by Nguyen Thi Wan, who is the SEA Games champion in the steeplechase, and she has the season lead now for the half marathon of 1:23:15. And in the women's marathon, Pham Thi Hong Lee, who I think was bronze medalist at the SEA Games in the marathon, she's run 2:56:30, so she's ranked 3rd. She's ahead of Tabal, who's run 2:58, and behind Halasto, who's run 2022. Also in the 100 hurdles, Nguyen Thi Minh Han in the Ho Chi Minh City meet ran 14:45 to share the season lead with the Thai. Not near from the Ho Chi Minh City meet ran 110.56, just 0.01 behind Natafawan of Thailand. 800 meters long took the season lead in the 800 and 152.99. He's a junior athlete, born in 2002. Steeplechase, Lee Ting Long at the National Juniors ran 9:36.08. Nguyen Ting Trong jumped 7:87 in the long jump, which is the #2 performance for the year for Southeast Asia. And the Ho Chi Minh City men's team had the #1 relay performance of the year with 40.75. So since COVID, no relay teams really ran, and no one's broken 40 seconds this year. In retrospect, 40 seconds doesn't land you a medal at SEA Games. It's pretty much 5th place at SEA Games, that sort of time. So it's just that a lot of athletes have just, a lot of teams haven't ran this year because there's hardly been any meets because of COVID. Okay, so yeah, we did a follow-up in regards to the Phil Aussie 11-year-old Mia Guillergan. So we did a bit more research. So I've got all the updates on my site. Obviously, we decided to, as I announced last time, to award Mia Guillergan the Filipino Pinoyathletics, the Pinoyathletics Junior Female Athlete of the Year. So the youngest athlete in boys or girls, junior men or junior women, to be awarded that in the last 8 years. So off the top of my head, previous recipients of the Junior Athlete of the Year award for females includes Jenny Rose Rosales, Kayla Richardson, Zion Corrales Nelson, Evangeline Kamenong, Migi Nanura, and I'm pretty sure there are some others that names may escape me, but yeah, we've been awarding that for the last 8 years, and having said that, with COVID, because of COVID, no national junior records were actually broken this year for the Philippines in men's, in junior men or junior women. So we didn't award a junior men's Athlete of the Year award this year because there was no exceptional performances because of COVID. There was not really much performances. In fact, all the athletes that were awarded the Athlete of the Year award, Christina Knott, EJ Obiena, and Mia Guillergan, they're all living overseas, so in Australia, Italy, the United States. So that's the only action that's really going on is outside the Philippines by athletes of Filipino origin or athletes training overseas. Now, looking at this list, so we did the stats on Mia Guillergan. We're not exactly sure if she has she's a dual passport holder. So her best time is actually below the Filipino record of Benedita Magaso, which is 18:14. So she's like half a second below that record. So now looking that she's actually ran faster than any junior Philippines has produced, we need a ranked performance based on against the open women's category to figure out where her performance would actually stand against the all-time lists of women. So if we look at the records, she's about a minute behind the senior national record, which is 16:40.81 by Mercidita Manipol. So Manipol's the only one who's actually ran under 17 minutes. So then followed by Sagaray and Martes, both at 17:15. So Martes is the 10K record holder with 34:40, double SEA Games women's marathon champion who we featured earlier. Then former Milo marathon champion Floredeliza Cachero Carreon, I believe one-time Milo women's champion, is just a second front. Just a minute. Okay, next. Okay, so this is the big question, the Phigsoc investigation after the SEA Games. Okay, so just going to read from the headlines about what's going on here, as this is really in the news now, regarding SEA Games funding. Where did it go? What's happening? What's going on? Okay, so the news is from the Philippine Star. Palace up to House to investigate alleged irregularities in SEA Games hosting. It would be up to the House of Representatives to decide whether the probe issues surrounding the Philippines hosting of the 30th SEA Games, but there should be no witch hunts that would dishonor athletes who made the country proud, Malacanang said Sunday. Firmly agree with that, because it's not the athletes that are being brought into question here. Absolutely not. The SEA Games, Southeast Asian Games Organising Committee, a private body led by former House Speaker Alakatana, has been criticised for the blunders, but the lawmaker insists there was nothing irregular in the hosting of the event. The controversies include the construction of a cauldron that cost at least $45 million and glitches related to the billeting and transportation of some athletes. House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco replaced Cayetano after tense leadership dispute, has said the chamber has no choice but to conduct a probe if someone files a resolution calling for an investigation of the issue. The 30th Southeast Asian Games showcase not only our local athletes at their best, but also demonstrated our successful hosting of a world-class event. Let us therefore not dishonor the men and women who gave honor and glory to the country by engaging in political innuendos and witch hunts, presidential spokesman Harry Roque said in a statement. Roque noted that the Office of the Ombudsman has formed a panel last year to conduct a fact-finding probe on the SEA Games controversy. We welcome this move of the Ombudsman in the same way that we leave the matter to the House of Representatives to conduct an investigation, if need be, on the use of government funds during last year's SEA Games, he added. Last month, Cayetano said Velasco could put him in jail if he finds anomalies in the Philippines' hosting of the SEA Games. The Philippines bagged 149 gold, 170 silver, and 121 medals, bronze medals during the regional sporting event. Okay, now let's move into that next screen. Okay, so this next screen is something that was given to me by a former athlete student to answer. It's probably, it's from a textbook, from an education. It's a page from a education textbook. Now, I wasn't even able to really answer this because I'm looking at the exercise, and these items that are listed that you have to put into two groups, they really overlap. Like, some of them overlap. Like, for example, you can't really group these into black and white two areas, because a lot of elements and a lot of these elements, like, they overlap with each other. Like, for example, speed, power, / agility, and that they really just overlap with each other. Reaction time, coordination. These things overlap, so you can't really group them into two groups. So this is why I really question with this sort of material, like, with this sort of educational material, like, where is it leading to? Like, what, like, it's like you're given a question to answer, and they expect you to answer it, but if you answer it, you're answering it really incorrectly, because the question itself hasn't been very well structured. So you basically you're forced to answer something which will cause confusion later on, which is an issue, I see, because, like, it basically goes against a lot of principles here. So that's why, like, it's just really not on. Anyway, and lots of textbooks are like this, and I'm just wondering, where is this going to lead to in terms of sports, if this is the sort of material that we're getting in schools. Okay. But anyway, with that aside, moving on. So I've been inserting some very interesting infographics into my Pinoyathletics articles. So one thing that was brought up before was when the Filipino historian Eddie Alinea wrote about how he felt that Lydia De Vega was the greatest ever female track and field athlete the Philippines has produced, and I disagreed with it. Like, I honestly felt that Lydia De Vega was a great athlete. Don't get me wrong there. She performed very well at the Asian and the Southeast Asian level. But if we go further back, like, Lydia is very well known, so that's why it's easy to sort of have that name on the tip of the tongues. But if we go further back to the era before that, we have Josephine De La Vigne, an athlete that's hugely forgotten. She went to 3 Olympic Games, same as Lydia went to 2 Olympic Games. De La Vigne went to 3. She finished 18th, 15th, and 13th at the Olympic Games. I think it might have actually, it was 11th. So it was 18th, 15th, and 11th at the Olympic Games, and made the final of the Olympic Games. So she's like basically the highest ever placed woman at the Olympics as well. Lydia finished 22nd, 32nd, and 43rd in 3 events over 2 Olympic Games, and her highest ranking was 22nd. I'll just double check with De La Vigne what her standing was at the Olympics. I think I have typoed again here, but I will check the original source for that. I believe her highlight was the 1968 Olympic Games. Here we go, Olympic.org. That will straighten this out a bit. No, that doesn't straighten it out at all. Okay, I'm gonna. Here we go. The sports score. I think this is it. Okay. Okay, so this is the facts. Okay, so she placed 15th in 1968, which was a straight final, and she placed 13th, missing out on the final by 1 place. So in the Olympics, De La Vigne fared better than De Vega. I wouldn't say that the 100 is more of a difficult event than the shot put, because they're both equally tough events. Both of them, I believe they may be the only two that won gold medals at the Asian Games and the Asian Championships. Of course, Delavinia didn't win gold medals at the SEA Games because she retired before the Philippines joined the SEA Games in 1977. However, both Delavinia's records in the discus still stand, and the records are the oldest Philippine records now. So bear that in mind, that not only was Delavinia more successful at the Olympics and equally as successful as De Vega in the Asian Games and Asian Championships level, but she also, her records actually have stood longer. So her shot put record, junior shot put record set in 1965, is 55 years old, and her senior discus record set in 71 is 49 years old. And her performance now would land second at the Southeast Asian Games. Her best performance would still land second in the Southeast Asian Games almost 50 or so years later. The other thing to consider is this, that Delavinia is 7 meters better than the next best ever Filipino discus thrower, whereas De Vega's records are recently broken, but the next best Filipino athletes in the 1 and 200 meters are shortly behind, not way behind, like in the case of Delavinia, who has her records well ahead of the next best and the third best and the fourth best of all time in her event from the Philippines. So that's why I strongly advocate that Delavinia is probably the greatest female track and field athlete that the Philippines has produced. Like, we're not just talking in popularity, we're talking in performance and longer lasting performances here. So I had nominated her a few years back to be included in the PSC's Athletics Hall of Fame. I felt that she was very well deserving. She died a few years back, and I felt that she had been somewhat forgotten, but I felt that her name really should have been honoured in the PSC Hall of Fame. So I basically wrote my piece, and she ended up getting inducted into the Philippine Sports Hall of Fame. Okay, next. So yeah, this is just part of the projects that I'm working on. I've been working for the Association of Track and Field Statisticians, representing the Philippines for the last 8 years, seven years, and was recently voted in as the Vice President of the ATFS. So yeah, I had paid some good money to universities to retrieve Philippine results from 1930 to 1970 from very old, very rare periodicals. I mean, this is a monthly periodical that started in 1930 to 1970. I've only ever seen a few copies of it. Like, there may even be months where there is no longer an existing copy of it because it's such an old periodical which wasn't very widely distributed at the time, containing Philippine athletic results. Like, there's photocopies of it. Some months may not have existing original copies left. Like some libraries that I sought the information from, the old information had actually burned in fires, so it was no longer really perished. So I had to it's like going on a treasure hunt. I honestly had to dish out about $100 to get scans of the pages that I needed for my research. But that was worth it. Came out of ad revenue, so that was worth it for long-term research projects and having all that statistical information in one place. Yeah, so it's nearly extinct journalistic material. These pages really should be scanned and put online before this information is gone forever. A lot of it's typewritten, so ink's fading, that sort of thing. All right, so yeah, finalizing it, I've just finishing off my level 3 Athletics Australia in sprints and hurdles coaching. I'm on day 3 of 4, so next week is the end of the course. Some takeaways I got from this is it was very top, like a top Australian coach giving a lecture on the course, so I learned quite a lot from this, and it was really an eye-opener. So we're going on about type 2A genetic for sprint, for fast twitch fibers, type 2A genetic, type 2B adjustable. It was quoted that the limitation for the adjustable was 1060 electronic for the 100 in the best case scenario for male. They were talking about isometrics for Asian or Caucasian sprinters based on Randy Huntington's research with working with the Chinese sprinters. Then there was information there on glute activation and Therabands, which I'll be incorporating into my coaching. I need to actually go and buy some resistance bands. I believe there's 5 different colors of them, so I might be doing something on that next time. So some additional reads I have here. There was a thing on Charlie Francis's 10-day taper, that might be an interesting article later. Basically, he starts intense 10 days out and lowers the intensity as he goes on. So there was basically a thing on different percentage ranges to work on. I have now got a long list of different activation and drill type exercises. There was a thing on the sprints about the support flight and support phase. Things about athlete flexibility, like things like Pilates and yoga, were also included. Just put those notes back down. Okay. So yeah, this is now the training group I have during lockdown. So we have 3 athletes from Africa, 2 from the US, and 8 from the Philippines. Events ranging from the 100 meters right up to the 5-10K. I'm not coaching anyone online for things like hurdles or jumps or anything like that at the moment. So those are way too technical events, and a lot of hidden hurdles, really a bit more difficult to come by during COVID. I'll just have a quick shout out to who is joining us in. So, Jana Joma Tohan, a member of the national team, and I can read Delmar Sadang is advising me that he's playing at the national games. Good on him. All the best for that. Hopefully that will push through by next year, if not a national open, national games, or one of them. So before I tune out, I'll just check if there's any questions, and I'll open this floor to any questions that the viewers may want to ask, whether it be regards to training, Philippine athletics news, or anything we've discussed today, other things on Southeast Asian news, things on world athletic results. Basically it's an open book now. I'll just close that presentation off. So yeah, speak now or forever hold your peace. I'll just check to see what is going on. The page. Oh yeah, there's a thing here on, this is good as well, there's a thing here as well on how to deal with runner's knee. So various various articles on that. I have so many windows open at the moment, I'm just trying to click them all shut. Oh yeah, so there's more people I didn't see. Okay, so J.H. Fernandez, Leonese Solidu, Chadi Ramos, Raul Verona, who else? Kitchen Sink. I don't know, there's like lots of people here. I can see, I've noticed there's so many people watching tonight. Anyway, thank you all. We can't do this without you. Close that one off. Programs. What else was I going to add? Oh yeah, I was able to get some of the athletes that I'm working with, I was able to get them access to the ovals, like just wrote to mayors or whoever I needed to write to. So that was all good. All right, I think that's all for today. There doesn't seem to be any questions going on. So yeah, again, just a recap of today. Yeah, so we'll just call it that day for now. That's 36 minutes. All right, thanks all, and bye for now.